Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mark's Action Figures. In 1980, a small independent horror film shocked Hollywood. Made for just over $500,000, it became one of the most profitable horror movies ever made and launched a franchise that would span more than 4 decades. 12 films, countless comics, novels, video games, and one of the most recognizable villains in cinema history. Even though the killer in the first movie wasn't Jason Voorhees. Today we're looking back at the original Friday the 13th and then reviewing one of the greatest Jason collectibles ever made. The NECA Quarter Scale Jason Voorhees from the final chapter. Now, first, I want to talk about the history of Friday the 13th. This was produced in 1980. It came out in 1980. This was the birth of a horror icon. By the late 1970s, horror films were changing. John Carpenter's Halloween 1978 proved that audiences loved masked killers stalking unsuspecting teenagers. It became an enormous success on a tiny budget. And I have to say, Halloween, that first 1978 Halloween, is probably one, if not one of my favorite horror slasher movies of all time. Love John Carpenter's Halloween. Seeing that success, producer and director Sean S. Cunningham decided to make his own horror movie, but bigger, bloodier, and more shocking. Legend has it that Cunningham even placed newspaper advertisements announcing Friday the 13th before the screenplay was finished, and simply to see if audiences would be interested. And they were. So from a budget versus box office perspective, so the production budget cost about $550,000. Worldwide box office returns nearly $60 million. That means the movie earned over 100 times its production budget, making it one of the most profitable horror films ever made. It proved independent horror films could compete with major Hollywood productions. Now, the story revolves around Camp Crystal Lake, which has a very dark past. Years earlier, a young boy named Jason Voorhees supposedly drowned because the camp counselors were neglecting their duties. As new counselors prepare to reopen the camp, they begin dying one by one. Throughout most of the movie, audiences believe Jason is the killer. Then comes one of horror's greatest twists. The killer is revealed to be Jason's mother, Pamela Voorhees. Driven insane by the loss of her son, she blames careless counselors and murders anyone trying to reopen Camp Crystal Lake. Tom Savini's revolutionary makeup effects is a major contributor here. One of the biggest stars behind the scene was special makeup effects artist Tom Savini. Savini created incredibly realistic gore effects that audiences had rarely seen before. Arrow wounds, axe wounds, decapitations, blood effects. Each death became an unforgettable set piece. His work helped define slasher movies throughout the 1980s. In fact, you will find that you can even see the very first, or one of the very first movies made by Kevin Bacon. And his death is quite gory. The ending that shocked audiences. After surviving Pamela's attack, Alice Hardy, played by Adrienne King, drifts peacefully across Crystal Lake. Now, she just fought with Pamela Voorhees in a life and death battle, and she's the one who actually decapitates Pamela Voorhees. Then, as she's drifting on this lake, Jason suddenly leaps from the water, grabbing her in one of horror's greatest jump scares. Director Sean Cunningham has admitted he wanted to create a shocking ending similar to Carrie. You'll remember at the end of the movie, Carrie visits her mother's grave. Sorry, it is not Carrie. It is someone who survives Carrie's wrath, one of the protagonists, visiting Carrie's grave, and then Carrie's hand pops out of the grave in a jump scare, which is really, really well done. Jason becomes the face of the franchise. So ironically, Jason isn't the killer in the first movie, but audiences remembered that final scene. Beginning with part 2, Jason became the central villain. One of the most iconic moments in history occurs in Friday the 13th part 3, 1982, when Jason Voorhees first dons the hockey mask that would become one of the most recognizable symbols in all of popular culture. The mask originally belonged to Shelley Finkelstein, played by Larry Zerner, an overweight, socially awkward prankster who was staying at Higgins Haven with his friends. Shelley constantly played practical jokes, often pretending to be injured or dead in an attempt to get attention, making it difficult for his friends to know when he was being serious. Shelley wore the hockey mask simply as part of one of his pranks. After Jason kills Shelley, he discovers the masks and decides to wear it, replacing the burlap sack he had worn over his head in Friday the 13th Part 2. It was a simple costume change that became cinematic history. The weathered white hockey mask paired with Jason's silent, relentless presence instantly transformed him into one of the most recognizable horror villains of all time. Today, the hockey mask is synonymous with Jason Voorhees and is as iconic to horror fans as Dracula's cape, Freddy Krueger's razor glove, or Michael Myers' white mask. Fun fact, the hockey mask wasn't part of the original script. It was suggested during production by special effects artist Martin Sadoff, who happened to have a Detroit Red Wings goalie mask. The filmmakers liked the look so much that they redesigned and customized it specifically for Jason, unknowingly creating one of the most enduring images in horror history. The series eventually expanded to 12 feature films, including Friday the 13th, Part 2, Part 3, The Final Chapter, A New Beginning, Jason Lives, Jason Takes Manhattan, Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, Freddy versus Jason, and then Friday the 13th remake of 2009. Jason also became a major figure in comics, novels, collectibles, and video games. So why do fans love The Final Chapter? Although marketed as Jason's final film, The Final Chapter 1984 is considered by many fans to feature the definitive Jason. The makeup is incredible. The kills are brutal. The pacing is excellent. Ted White's performance as Jason remains one of the franchise's best. It's also remembered for introducing Tommy Jarvis, who became Jason's greatest nemesis. So part 2 of this review is going to be about the actual figure that represents or is an homage to Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter. So we're going to look at one of the best, I think, Jason figures ever produced. Oh, here he is. No, this is not what I want to show you. Although this is a really good rendering or representation. This is the Ultimate Jason Final Chapter from NECA. 7-inch figure. But we're not going to be looking at that today. This is what we're going to be looking at today. Look at this guy. I mean, look at this guy. Oh, he is fantastic. Oh, he is so beautiful. Standing at 18 inches tall, this quarter scale Jason absolutely dominates any display. Unlike many large collectibles that sacrifice articulation for size, NECA managed to create a figure that is both imposing and highly posable. This is essentially an oversized version of their Ultimate Jason, packed with incredible detail. The sculpt is phenomenal. Jason's bulky build perfectly captured Ted White's intimidating appearance. Every wrinkle in the clothing, every tear in the shirt, every fold in the pants. I mean, this looks screen accurate. His oversized work boots and heavy stance make him appear incredibly imposing. The head sculpt is just absolutely phenomenal. You have interchanging heads here. You could pose him with this head over here with the slit on the side of his head. That's the final scene where the machete is thrusted into his head by none other than his ultimate antagonist, or in this case, our protagonist in the movie. Just amazing, man. I can't say enough about the details of this. It's just absolutely incredible. Tommy Jarvis really did a number on him. The classic hockey mask is beautifully weathered. Paint scratches, paint wear. There's dirt, blood stains, everything looks naturally aged. Proportions are just perfect. The unmasked head, the NECA unmasked portrait is outstanding. NECA recreated Jason's deformed features with incredible realisms, missing hair, sunken eyes, rotting teeth. The deep axe wound from the ending of part 3 is sculpted right here in his head. The exposed flesh. The paint applications bring every gruesome detail to life. Many collectors display him permanently without the mask because the sculpt is simply that good. The paint work is exceptional. Subtle skin tones, layered washes, weathering on the clothing, dried blood effects. Nothing appears overly clean or toy-like. The figure feels almost like a movie prop. The clothing is fantastic. Jason's gray work shirt hangs naturally over his body. The weathering suggests years of dirt, sweat, and decay. The brown work pants feature realistic fading and staining. The boots have excellent sculpted weathering, so they look just fantastic. I mean, a lot of the portions of the movie, this is all you see. When you see Jason, you just see him, from his feet up and up to his shins, and that's all you see from him often. In terms of accessories, NECA packed this figure with fantastic accessories. There's the machete that I have put into his hand, the extra hand he comes with. That's when Jason tries to block a thrust of the blade, and it just gets wedged right into his hand. Look at that. That is fantastic. That's amazing. The machete is a signature weapon. It's silver blade with realistic blood effects, comfortably fits in Jason's hand. Then you have the axe. Remember this axe from part 4, the final chapter? Remember this axe? The wood grain is sculpted beautifully. Metal blade features convincing weathering. This is the axe that is thrown through the front door, hitting in the chest and killing Sarah Parkington, played by Barbara Howard. And then there's the kitchen knife. I know I have a kitchen knife somewhere. I may have misplaced it here. Yep, for some reason I cannot find my kitchen knife. Oh, he has it in his hand. There we go. The kitchen knife. Yeah, this is another iconic weapon from the films. Again, it features realistic blood applications. And of course, the severed hand, which is one of the most memorable accessories. It recreates one of the movie's brutal moments with incredible sculpt and paint detail. I really love to display it with the machete in the hand. I mean, it's amazing. This is exactly how you need to display it. Or if you want to, you could display your figure with the head and with that final iconic scene where Tommy Jarvis just thrusts that machete right into Jason's head like this, like, and then he falls to the ground, and this thing just sinks deeper into his head, which ultimately, we think kills Jason. But um, you have to know that at the end of the movie, Tommy Jarvis just starts whacking on Jason because he sees his hand move a little bit. So not sure what kills him, if that's what kills him, or if it's all that damage done by the very young Tommy Jarvis at the end of the movie. In terms of articulation, for an 18-inch figure, its articulation is as expected for any NECA's 1/4 scale figures. You have ball jointed head, you've got shoulder articulation, you have elbows, wrists, torso, hips, knees, ankles. You can create many of Jason's iconic poses, but of course you have to be very cautious not to over these are NECA figures, so you want to be cautious with regards to articulation. Always heat with either boiling water or very warm water the areas you want to move, or with a hair dryer. You want to make sure that the joints the plastic becomes pliable, very soft. So it's good to heat up those different parts of the figure that you want to pose if you don't want to break the potentially friable plastics that are used sometimes in these figures. The display presence is where this figure truly shines. At 18 inches tall, Jason towers over standard 6-inch or 7-inch figures. As you can see here, I have both versions of this figure. So you tell me which one is more impressive. Whether displayed alone or beside other NECA horror icons like Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, he immediately becomes the centerpiece. This may be one of NECA's most screen-accurate Jason figures. Everything from the axe wound and clothing to the weapons and body proportions captures the final chapter version almost perfectly. Fans often consider this one of the finest Jason collectibles ever produced. The original Friday the 13th transformed independent horror filmmaking. It proved that modestly budgeted slasher movies could become a cultural phenomenon and helped ignite the horror boom of the 1980s. How many copies of Friday the 13th are there? It's insane. While Jason only appeared briefly in that first film, he quickly evolved into one of cinema's most recognizable villains. NECA's quarter-scale Jason from the final chapter is a fitting tribute to that legacy. Its exceptional sculpting, lifelike paintwork, impressive accessories, and commanding display presence make it one of the standout pieces of any horror collection. If you're a fan of Jason Voorhees or classic slasher films, this figure is easy to recommend and remains one of NECA's finest large-scale releases. For me, this is a 10 on 10. Whether you're a lifelong fan of Crystal Lake or just beginning your horror collection, this figure earns its place on the shelf. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and let me know in the comments which Friday the 13th movie is your favorite and which Jason figure should I review next. Until next time, guys, this was Mark's Action Figures.